Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another outstanding episode of Jofo in the Ring. I am your host, Jeremy Prophet, the harbinger of truth, Black Dynamite, man of many names. Today, I'm joined by an amazing guest. This man has accomplished so much, both in the ring and outside of the ring. You may know him as Tennessee Lee from his time in the WWE or the WWF at the time. You may know him as Colonel Robert Parker from his time in WCW. You may know him as one of the most brilliant minds when it comes to booking a territory. And today, I am ever so privileged to be joined by the one and only Mr. Robert Fuller. Robert, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for that introduction. That's very nice of you to say some very, very nice things there. I appreciate that. You know, I'm like you. You said you got so many names, you get kind of mixed up sometime. That I'm kind of in the same boat here. That I pretty much answer to anything.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. And this interview was made possible because of a great mutual friend of ours, Mr. Jacques Rougeau. So I'd kind of like to start just familiarizing our audience with your history with Jacques. When did you first meet Jacques?
I met Jacques. I knew his brother Raymond before I'd met Jacques. I was from working in Georgia Championship Wrestling, and then later on, when Georgia Championship Wrestling then moved on to Turner Broadcasting and changed their name, I met Jacques, and Jacques. I guess that year, if I'm guessing the year, I'm probably talking about maybe the early '80s, something in there. Yeah. So I've known Jacques for an awful long time.
Mm-hmm. And he speaks extremely highly of you. He talks about his career trajectory when he left Canada, started working, down in the South. But he always credits you for being the one who really took him under your wing and used him extremely well on your shows that you were putting on. What was it about Jacques that really caught your eye?
Well, you know what, Jacques, when I first met him, he didn't have a lot of confidence in himself, and he was a better guy in the ring than what he realized. And he had a lot of possibilities as far as his interviews and his being able to get over in a territory and be a good ticket seller. And I saw that. What I saw that made it real easy for me to hire Jacques. My brother and I, we owned Alabama and Northwest Florida, and we had a town or two towns running every night from Huntsville down to Mobile and all the way over to Tallahassee. And so we had a lot of work for guys. We started so many wrestlers out. Jacques was a young, good-looking kid who had a French accent. And in Alabama, you can imagine, I got a lot of young girls watching my TV, and you got a French-speaking young fellow that's very handsome, and he carries himself well. He's in the gym every day, taking care of his body, and so he's just a darn good-looking boy that's got an accent that's really going to set him afire in the state of Alabama. And I saw that, and I said, well, we can develop this guy into something, and he'll be very good for us.
Mm. No, it's a very good, shows you have a very good eye for talent. And one of the things I found interesting when I was doing my research for this interview is I feel there are a good number of similarities between Jacques and yourself, both coming from a wrestling family. Your second or maybe even third generation?
Third generation.
Yeah. Third generation. That's, yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather, Roy Welch, and he was a wrestler, and he promoted one of the largest territories in the NWA back in the old days. That he ran 5 states, And so generally, you like us, we were members of the NWA, and we ran Alabama. So then, we had Bill Watts over in Louisiana next to us, and then over into Texas, Devon Erickson, and everybody was every state had their ball team, as you might say. And we traded guys back and forth, and it was a different world then. The cable wasn't on TV, and we all had our local televisions on Saturday mornings, and it played in all the major cities. And we picked our town that ran weekly, and for us, Birmingham was Mondays, and Mobile Tuesday, and Montgomery on Wednesday, and Thursday, Panama City, and then Friday we ran some spot show near Dothan, Alabama, and we did Dothan, Alabama on Saturday nights, TV there Saturday morning, and then we'd go that night to the show. And so we back in those days, we developed our talent, and we were able to keep it. As the cable came in, and Vince McMahon kind of took over with Georgia Championship Wrestling became WCW, and then they would decide that if you had a guy like Jacques that was doing really well for you, and you're really good at the box office for you, then they had a big contract for him. And naturally, we're able to pay more because they're doing a worldwide business where I'm running the state of Alabama, so it became more difficult. But with Jacques, he was very loyal, and he really loved his father. I don't know at that time if he got along as well with his father as he did later in his life. And so he and I talked about that a lot, and I sympathized with his relationship as far as he and his father went, and I just kind of took him under my wing, and more or less as not a father-son type of thing, but as like almost like two brothers that I looked after him, and I made sure that he was on the right road to being the successful guy that I knew that he could be. And you know what? When you're developing talent, it's a lot of work. And you need a lot of help. You need a guy that has a lot of promise, and for him to, for you to develop him, he has to show that. He has to have the heart and the mind and the will, and he has to be in that gym, and he has to be that guy that I picture him to be. And then if he can come up to those standards, and I have so many guys that I had an idea of what they should be, and then they became twice as good. So Jacques was one of those guys that he was very surprising to me, in that so many times I would give him a thought for an interview. Back in those days, we didn't write out interviews, so you'd say it word by word. I would just stand there. I would let you know a few weeks ahead of time where you were going with my business, and then I'd get you on TV and I'd tell you, now here's what we're trying to sell, and that I wouldn't write it down for you, and so I would expect a lot out of you besides just what I had talked to you about. And I would tell you who you're working with, and what it involved, what was happening at the show that night, and what's going to happen next week. And so I want you to develop your own ideas of who you are and what your predicament is from week to week. And then to be able to respond to that. And so, if I get a smart kid like Jacques was, then get that accent going, that French accent, and I knew that that these young girls here in Alabama, they're going to hear that accent and see that pretty fella from Montreal, and it's going to be pretty easy to get him over, and particularly with the work ethic that he had. He was able to give me what I wanted and generally more week to week, and that's what you look for in talent.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very thankful that you were able to steer him on the right path to the success that he achieved because lo and behold, he managed to bring me into this wrestling business. He was the person who put me in my first headlock, showed me the ropes. And I'm very thankful that he had the career that he did so that I can have the career that I aspire to have in the years to come. So I think indirectly, I owe you a very big thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. And,
So
you know what? I'm sure you do. That I don't like to blow my own whistle, but I will a little bit. That that
by all means.
I've started so much talent, so many guys that I've been involved with that honky tonk man. I gave him the name. I gave him the guitar, the whole gimmick, the whole thing. That so many guys came through our territory, and they became Vince's up in New York's biggest stars. And Hogan. There's a good example for you. Hogan made his first dollar he ever made working for my brother and I. At that time we used him as Terry the Hulk Boulder, and then we brought in his half brother, used him as Eddie Boulder, and he became Brutus the Beefcakes up in New York. And so just so many guys that we gave a start to that really became big, and I can say that for Jacques, that he went and really made something of himself when he left us. But the years that he was there, he was very, very loyal to me, and I always had a feeling that even if he was offered a big contract or something, that he would have second thoughts about leaving, because he was very glad and appreciative for the way that we used him. And I know I give you one incident that I had Joe LeDuc as my champion, and he thought so much of Joe LeDuc. And of course, I did too. We made so much money with Joe LeDuc and Archie, who was the Mongolian Stomper. The Canadians, they all came from Canada, and I had Jacques beat Joe in Dothan, Alabama, for our championship title, and that wasn't an easy achievement for a young guy to get. That I did that because I had trust in Jacques that he'd stick with me and he could get the job done. And so I have I couldn't say enough nice things about Jacques, both as a talent and then secondarily as a dear friend. That we've been friends for many years. And like I said, when I said he's got kind of like a brother to me, that I became more or less an older brother to him, and he always seemed like a real fine younger brother to me.
Oh, well, it's wonderful to hear you guys had such a great relationship. And yeah, definitely when I speak to him and he mentions you, you should just see the joy that beams from the man's eyes. I mean, he speaks of you with such high regard. So definitely it sounds like it's a mutually reciprocated appreciation that he has of you. I kind of wanted to talk a bit about the territory that you were booking, because being from a wrestling family, I imagine that wrestling was in your blood. It was natural that this was something you wanted to go into. And you were booking at the same time you were wrestling. Was that always the plan to do both, or is it more that you were focused on one and the other one was kind of secondary?
My brother and I, we found a great deal of success in ourselves when we went and opened up a territory. Like we were running a territory out of Knoxville, Tennessee, eastern Tennessee, before we moved down and purchased Alabama and moved down there. We had a great deal of success there. That my brother's 6'9" and played basketball in college, and very athletic himself, and good looking fella, and built well, and great interviews. And so I always used my brother as a main event. That even though we owned the territory, but all of the guys knew that worked our territory, there wasn't jealousy over things like that because they knew that Ron, my brother, was outstanding at the box office, and that we could always count on him to. He was our racehorse that always won, and so I wrestled to get the heels over, our guys over, that were going to be working with my brother. And so I can't tell you how many times I bled all the way to the shoes for guys to get guys over so that my brother could make the comeback. And that was a winning thing for us. That when my father was living, we would bring in Dad, and we would do. We'd have a heel team that would be beating me and somebody up, and I'm really needing a partner bad. And so my dad would come in and he would say, "Well, I retired, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to, I'm going to back the kid up here and get him off his feet with this team and the whole deal." And then we'd do a deal to hang me up and do something bad to my dad and the whole deal. And then my brother would come in. And when Ron came in, it was always a sellout house for us. And so we did this family business, and we were our own stars. My cousin Jimmy Golden, who you might remember from WCW as Bunkhouse Buck.
Yep.
He's the first cousin with me, and so he always went along with us. Bob Armstrong, the Hall of Famer there from got inducted into the Hall of Fame there in World Wrestling. I mean, for Vince in New York. And he was very loyal, and he was like a brother, part of the company. So Jacques will tell you, these guys, it was Jimmy Golden, Bob Armstrong, my brother and I, and Tony Charles, and Joe LeDuc, and Mongolian Stomper, and to get fitted into that group of guys in our territory was pretty difficult because guys came and went. But these guys I'm just speaking about, they were always there. That we counted on them, and they stuck with us. And so wrestling, I always knew that any booking job that I had, the first thing I could do as a worker was work to get some heels over. And you're never gonna have a good movie if you ain't got a bad guy in it, and you're never gonna draw a good house at a wrestling match without a darn good heel and somebody the people are really mad at. And myself and Jimmy Golden, Bob Armstrong, I had so many guys that I could feed to these heels, and I needed to be there myself. And that I didn't mind. I didn't mind bleeding. I didn't mind giving up the blood, and it didn't bother me any. And so I found myself very valuable in building heel characters, bad guys. And so that's kind of was my position. I never saw myself as the main event. I would quicker put Jacques in the main event than myself. And we would all work toward bringing the heel up to the potential where he'd work with my brother. And so we that's the way we'd sell out our houses, and so I always found it necessary whether I booked for Georgia Championship Wrestling, WCW, whether I was no matter who I worked for, Jerry Jarrett and those guys out of USWA, and it doesn't matter. I always wanted to work because I said, well, I need to get some heels over. That every territory that would hire me and say we've got a problem. We're not getting any asses in our seats. We need to get some people in the house. And I would look at the situation over and say, well, you've got all chiefs here, no Indians. You got a bunch of good guys, and you can't. These guys can't be your money. You got to have some bad guys. You got to have some heels, and so I'd go to work on that. Get me some good guys like Jacques, young boys that looked good and spoke well, and I'd try to get these heels over. And so that was always my idea, and I kind of needed to work myself because I always saw myself as that what they call that white meat, a good, kind, sweet type of baby face that can relate to the audience. Yeah. And then we're going to get some bad guys going, and that's the way we're going to draw our money. So.
And that was one of the next questions that I had for you, more on the booking side, as to what was your main strategy or your secret sauce, if you will, as to how to pack the houses. But I'm guessing it's having some strong heels so that people will want to pay money to watch them get beat.
Yeah. That anytime that I would take a booking job anywhere, and that was always the problem. It was always a problem. I'd always look at the thing. I'd say, "Hey, you got no heels." I say, "Oh, we've got so and so." I say, "Yeah, you do, but he's not over." You don't. He's here, but he's not. He's not hated, and he's not. He's not where he needs to be to draw you money in your house. And so I said, "So we'll go to work on that right away." And so you gotta have some real good baby faces in order to get that done. And so so man, I'm going back to Jacques, but I say when I get a guy, a young boy, good looking kid comes in like that's just willing to do anything that you ask him to do. And I always like the fact he's not afraid to bleed, and he's not afraid of getting hurt. That you don't want a sissy. You want somebody that's ready to give you 100%, and it's a man's business. I know. You said Jacques trained you, then you would know that in this business, it's a man's business. That I've had so many guys come to me in the dressing room and say, "Oh gosh, dog, you need to talk to so and so. He's going to beat me up." I just want to laugh. I just want to say, "Hey, well, what do you want me to do?" And say, "Well, can you talk to him?" I said, "No." I said, "Because if I talk to him, he's going to really beat you up." And so I said, "Here's what you do. That when you come in the dressing room tomorrow night and you look around, there's usually 3 or 4 different dressing rooms. So when he's in this one, you go to that one." The guy said, "That's it?" I said, "That's it." I said, "You know what? You stay away from him." But this business sometimes creates a feeling where there's guys who say, "Oh, so and so's getting a push, and he doesn't deserve it. That's my push. I should be getting that." And I said, so then when you put those guys in the ring together, there's going to be a problem, and I don't mind that. I just say, well, that's part of life, and we'll work around that. But if you guys got a problem and it doesn't seem to be solved without a fight, I don't want it in my dressing room. Let's take it to the ring. I got an audience out there that pays a big dollar for that type of stuff. And so the last thing I want to hear about is you guys fighting in my dressing room. That if I'm going to have a fight, let's give it to the people who paid the ticket. And and then let's get this worked out. I don't like dealing with a bunch of sissies. And Jacques will tell you that business is tough sometimes. and and the wrestling business is no different.
Yeah. And no, I think that you handled that the right way. Let the men be men, settle it like men in the ring. And I think when you do that, a lot of times you'll maybe see that there's a mutual respect. I'm someone, I like it when it's competitive in the ring. I like being that guy. If someone wants to test me or they want my spot, then I'm willing to defend it and I'm willing to fight for what I believe in and put the work in. I think that it's maybe something that in this generation is not there as much, because I feel this generation might be a little uh I don't want to say soft, but it is what it is. Definitely not like anything during your time where the men were men. But yeah, I mean, I think that
Yeah,
it says something that, you're a wrestler, you're a professional, you're an
yeah,
athlete.
yeah. Today I think you're right that the guys are a lot more cooperative. But you do see sometimes a little conflict. I know I've as a booker I've been in the dressing room with Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, and Curtis Thompson. Curtis Thompson bench pressing about 450 pounds and tough kid, but he's not a UFC fighter, and
Mhm.
so they get into it in the dressing room, and I'm doing the booking. I'm in Carolina, and the owner of the territory is there, and uh, and they're going at it, and he looks at me and he says, "Hey," he says, "What are you going to do?" you know, he, he wants me to get up and stop it, stop it somehow. And I just look at him and I say, hey guys, you're on concrete there, you know.
Mm.
And the owner, he looks at me and he's like, is that it? And I say, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
that's it. I say because in a minute it'll be over. I said, well, we'll be down on the floor and everybody's blown up, and we're in a stalemate here or something, and that we'll get them apart and we'll separate them in the dressing room and they'll all be okay. But I said, I'm not going to get up and go over and get in the middle of Curtis Thompson and Shamrock and try to pull them apart. I said,
Yeah.
said this is just, this we're just airing out a few problems here, and that's the way it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
You know,
and I've had so many things like that, man. I mean, you and I could sit and talk all night long about times that I've been in volatile situations with the wrestlers, and I've just said, well, you know what? It's wrestling and shit happens.
yeah.
So
In,
here we
in
are.
Indeed. Now, you bring up Ken Shamrock, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you were there when one time when he almost died fighting with the Nasty Boys.
Right, right. I was there. I was there. We were all we worked a show and we went to a bar afterwards, and Shamrock had this girlfriend and she had dated several of the guys, and so it wasn't like they were going to get married or that type of thing,
Mm.
but Brian Knobs of the Nasty Boys, and he's always getting into trouble, and he's a big mouth son of a gun, and a good guy. I really like him, but he's the type of guy you just want to beat him up. And I felt that way a lot of times myself, also because he's that type of guy. But he pinched Shamrock's girlfriend's boobie, and uh, and Shamrock went off on him about it, and he was like, whatever. She just a girl goes out with all the guys and all this, and he's drinking and all this crap, and so they come over with the argument and the bouncers and they get hold of Shamrock and because he's going crazy and
Mm.
they're gonna throw him out. But when they restrain him and get him, Knobs grabs him by the face, and you know how you take one of those grapefruits and you put it down on that thing on the table and you just turn it
Yep.
back and forth and it gets the juice out of it. Those were old timey things. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about,
Oh, yeah, totally.
but
We used to do it in my hockey days. We used to do that with a glove in the face.
all right, when it grabbed him by the face, and he just gives him that squashy thing in the face like a like he's doing the grapefruit,
Yeah.
and and Shamrock goes and he shoves him backwards, and he said, "Ah, get him out of here." Well, then they grab hold of Knobs too, and then they're going to throw them both out. And I'm like, "Oh gosh, no, not together." Like, throw them out. So I tell Curtis, I said, get Knobs out and get him to the car, and we can get him out of here. And so well, I go outside. By this time, Shamrock's made such a fool of himself that the police have come and they have arrested him.
Mm.
And when I get out to the car, Curtis Thompson is kicking Knobs' guts out. Knobs halfway under the car. He's putting the boots to him, and it's just crazy night. Crazy night at the bar. We got thrown out of so many bars because my crew was just all young guys, and they were all crazy. It's just a whole bunch of crazy. But anyway, we go back to the hotel, and in the morning, about probably 3 o'clock in the morning, I've gone to sleep, and I hear the pounding and knocking at the door, and I go to the door, and it's the girl that Knobs squeezed the booby there. The thing, I open up the door, and I'm thinking, wow. I'm a single guy, the young guy. I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh, she's here at my door. She wants to come out. But then she goes, oh my God, no, Ken's here, and he's gonna kill Knobs, and he's gonna kill him. And then down the stairs, the stairs on the bottom floor, and from the second floor, here comes Vinny Torelli's his name, so it's not Shamrock at this time. He's working for me as Vinny Torelli, and down the stairs, he just bumps off his ass because he's falling, trying to hurry down the stairs, and shoves me back in the room. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm naked from the bed, and the last thing I want to get my ass kicked by him and under those circumstances. And so he says, where are they? Where are they? And I know where they are. They're up on the third floor. But I don't know the room number. I just know the third floor. And so, so I say, hey, I don't know. They're up on the third floor somewhere and the thing. So he storms out. I start grabbing my clothes. And I put my clothes on quick as I can. And I run up the stairs. And when I get up, going up to the third, almost to the top of the third floor, I can hear the punches. Bow, bap, bap, bap. I can hear it, and the fight going on down the hall. So I rush down the hall. When I get down the hall, the door's open to Sags and Knobs' room, and Sags has got Torelli. He's picked him up, and Torelli is unconscious, and he's dragging him to the floor. He's dragging him to the door, and I see him at the door, and I just stop, and I'm just like, hey, Sags, what, And so he just drops him, and he's like, oh no. He was going to throw him over the balcony because he was afraid that Vinny would wake up. he didn't want to deal with Vinny. Vinny was very dangerous, but what had happened? He had come to the door, and Knobs there, passed out on the bed, legs hanging off the bed, halfway in the bed, and Sags is talking to his wife on the phone, and the door knock and pounding on the door. So he goes to the door. When he opens the door, Vinny just shoves him out of the way, and goes right in, jumps on top of Knobs, and just starts beating his brains out. And so Sags hit him with the phone. He was holding, the phones were heavy in the hotel room. He hit him with the phone and knocked him goofy, and he fell into the floor. And when he did, then Sags put the boots to him. There was blood on the walls, 2 foot up the walls. It was like a slaughterhouse. It was unreal. It was incredible. I looked at Torelli, and his head was the size of a basketball. And I just said, gosh, man, this is bad. Get an ambulance, get them down here bad. I thought Sags had killed him. I said, oh gosh, I've never seen anything like that. I said,
Well, you might have saved his life from the sounds of it.
I did because Sags, Sags told me. He said I was going to throw him over. I was going to pitch him over unconscious over the third floor, hoping that he wouldn't survive it, because I didn't want to deal with him when he woke up, because Sags knew that I hit him with the phone from behind, and I took advantage of the circumstance, and so when he gets back on his feet, that I'm going to have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so just crazy times, and you just say, oh gosh almighty. And but I had so many guys, like I said, that Curtis Thompson, he was the mailman for WCW there for a while. He worked the gimmick like, I carry the mail, I deliver the news and all of this stuff. And then I had Chavis, the Indian that went up to New
Tatanka.
York as Tatanka. He's bench pressing over 400 pounds, and all these guys are on steroids, and so I got a room full of young volatile guys, and I am in heaven. I knew. Listen, we got a lot of live wires in here, and as a matter of fact, like I said, it was so bad. We'd go to these bars and they'd let us come in for free, and they'd give us drinks for free, and they were so nice to us because we were on TV and wrestlers and all that stuff. It got to where we couldn't go to any bars. We couldn't go to bars and go in and just have a drink because we were outlaws. That it was bad. It was bad, but doggone it, I said, man. But that's the wildest crew that I ever had. Young guys.
Yeah, no, sounds like it.
That set me in that deal, and I just said I was same thing. I was in the gym every day and working like crazy, and I had the respect of all of my guys. I could go in and work with Vinny or work with Chavis, who was Tatanka. We'd go down to Lumberton, where he was from, the Indian community down there, and I was the top. I used myself as a top heel there because I was an old timer in the business, and I had the belt as a North American champion, and I could work with all these kids and develop them and talk with them and work with them. And started off, I wasn't the booker there. It was George Scott. And then George left, and they hired me as the booker. And so they just had me there at first, me and Steamboat were in a big angle, North American champion, and I worked with Ricky every night. And we were the main events on the cards. And then I would work with these kids, from time to time. And then, I worked with guys like Vinny, and, they were Suplex City. They wanted to just Suplex City, and I would say, hey, kid, now listen, I'm the quarterback, and I call the plays. And, we don't run the dadgum ball on a play that I don't call. And so I say, hey, if you're going to learn anything, you're going to have to listen to me, and then we're going to learn something here tonight. And I got by being an old timer and working with these crazy son of a guns, and it's just great memories you have from the business and different territories that you worked in, and it just. I have stories like that and memories from every place I've ever been, and it's just it's a wonderful life.
Yeah, you brought up there before that this was a rowdy crew you were with. You guys were outlaws in the Wild West, from the sounds of it. I had the privilege of speaking with Ronnie Garvin not too long ago, And, he talked about a match that he had with the Macho Man, Randy Savage, where he said, Randy was just out of control and it really kind of degenerated once they were there in the ring. And I said maybe, it was possible that was roid rage, and you bring up that a lot of these guys were on steroids at the time. He kind of kayfabed me on the answer. He said that, he doesn't know if that was a thing, but, did you feel that the steroids contributed a lot to the rowdy behavior that some of these guys exhibited?
Yeah, no question. No question. That, yeah, it did. And I'll tell you what now, Ronnie, gosh, dog, I'll tell you, back when I first started in the business, Ronnie had been working some time down in Deep South, down in Tampa. And he was considered one of the best workers in the territory, and I worked with him a lot of times. And that son of a gun, he had his dangerous points too. That Ronnie's not a guy you really want to mess with. That I don't think Randy would have fared well with Ronnie, to be honest with you. That he was nobody to fool with. He was a tough guy.
I was wondering if you had ever seen this video that Ronnie and a couple of the guys were a part of, and I think that he had mentioned it might have even been towards you and your brother in a bit of a territory war, where they did a video. It was Ronnie Garvin, Bob Orton, Bob Roop, and the Great Malenko. It came out recently. It was on the internet a couple of years ago. It came out, but they had done this video where they had wanted to just expose the business as a plan B, as like a backup plan to want to, hurt the territory. Do you know anything about that?
They were trying to steal my brother's territory. That Ron owned the Knoxville territory up in the east, and I had moved down at that time to take the book in Alabama to run the business down there, and I left all of these guys, that same crew you're talking about. They were my crew, and we had business on fire. I mean, it was just, they were fantastic, and we did great business, and everything was good. But when I left, then Bob Roop took over the book, and Roop devised or led the guys in the territory to believe that my brother wasn't paying them correctly, or wasn't stealing money or not paying them, and so they could take over the territory and own the whole thing. And he convinced them that was the case. And so that's where that all came from. That I went back then as a booker. I went back with Dick Slater. I'm trying to think of a few guys: Tony Charles, Dick Slater, shooters, fighters. We went back to say, now listen, that if there's going to be a problem here, then we'll fight. If we have to, that you guys are not going to come down to our show and take over, and so it was I know I had a boat out on the lake, and Bobby Orton had a boat out there, and Ronnie had a boat, and we were all great buddies. But then when I went back, Dick Slater, he had a boat also, and we put his boat out there, and we were all in the same marina at the same lake. And so I would see those dadgum guys on the weekends, and I had a 357 Magnum on my boat. I was just like, hey, you know what? This is crazy. That we're out here on Sunday having a beer and enjoying water skiing and stuff at the lake, and so my crew they knew that this is a very, very volatile situation that we're in. We're not just doing Friday night wrestling. That it's competitive out here, and that all of the boys that I had, they all said, hey, Bobby Orton wants some of it, or or Bob Roop wants some of it, that we'll give them all they can handle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to the same bars. We went to the same on purpose. On purpose. It just,
Wow.
we went down and said, oh yeah, well, Ronnie Garvin and Bobby Orton are in there. I said, we don't give a shit who's in there. We're going in to have some beers. And so this was a crazy time in the business, but that was the old Knoxville war. That they destroyed the business in Knoxville by exposing the business, because the majority of our crowd believed in what we were doing. They believed in the wrestling. That when the people of Eastern Tennessee quit believing in wrestling, they didn't come anymore. And that was the end of it. That was the end of it. They totally exposed the business, and we had that battle there, and nobody ever won except the business just suffered for it. And then we went to Alabama and ran our business. So it's the way it was, and those guys winded up going wherever they went to be wrestlers. So, but I remember as a young guy, I got to tell you this one story real quick. I was in Orlando, and I was a young guy. Bobby Orton and his father, Orton Sr., and we were in Orlando, and Orton worked with Dick Slater. And Bobby had a little bit of he had a chip on his shoulder. We were all the same age, me and Bobby, Dick, and Mike Graham, Eddie's boy, and we're all down here in Florida. And we were young kids getting a little break, learning the business. And Bobby and Dick had a disagreement in the ring. And so they took it back behind the curtain, and Dick just beat the living crap out of him. I mean, he friggin' lit him up, man. Beat him back into the dressing room and back where the father was, and he told Orton Sr., if you want some of this, you can have it. And Bobby wore sunglasses around for a long time. He was a tough guy, Bobby, and he grew up in Kansas City, a tough neighborhood, and he did a lot of fighting, and so it just the way that it was. So the Dick and Bobby, they had that history, and so when we went back into Knoxville and me and Dick hanging out together all the time, then Dick was always, hell, I don't care, I'll light him up if I have to. So it's the way it was. And the business, with my father, he would have loved it. He would have said, "Hey, boy, bunch of tough guys, huh?" Well.
Yeah.
You never know what you had to deal with back in those days.
And I mean, when I spoke to Ronnie about it, he had said that he felt some regret over that video and doing it, and he felt that it wasn't the right approach. And he really said that it was Bob Roop's idea. It seems Roop was the mastermind behind the whole thing.
That's what I told you. That's what I told you. And Ronnie was right to tell you that, because that's exactly what happened. And Bob Roop was a stinking, dirty, no good, territory stealing, lying, sorry son of a gun. And it's just the way that it was. And and he was a tough guy. He was a Greco-Roman champion, and he was a tough guy, and he could take care of himself. But I knew, I knew from the beginning, Bob Roop was my brother's guy, and I told my brother many times, he is a no good son of a whatever. And my brother said, "Oh no, now you just got hard feelings over something." I'd say, I'm talking about business here. No, said the guy's just he's not all there. And when it comes to doing business and being the right kind of guy, and my brother found out the hard way, and he had some hard times over that. It cost him a lot of money, and it was a bad deal. Ronnie and I were dear friends, and we went from that to not speaking to one another for years and years and years. And now today, boy, I see Ronnie now today. It's big hugs. We're very close, and Ronnie would quickly say, "God, dog, I don't know what happened to us." I say, "Well, I know what happened to you. You got your head all turned around by a guy that my brother hired to book the territory, and just crazy times and crazy stuff going on. So it was a very volatile time, and there somebody could have got hurt really bad, and that's that's kind of things you'll remember for all your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing you could make write a book about it, or a small novel or a TV series. It's
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
If I was ever going to write a book, all these guys write a book, and everybody say, "Oh, Rob, you need to write a book. You need to write a book." Oh, hell, I say, well, you know what? If I write a book, it won't be about wrestling. I'll call it Knocked Out, because I've been knocked out 50 times in my life. I've been unconscious and from doing this or doing that. I grew up on a ranch, and my dad had a rodeo company, and I rode bulls, and I've been kicked in the head by a dadgum bull, and I've been bucked off by horses and into stuff and stomped and romped and thing. And I've had a lot of experiences with waking up from being unconscious. Today, I'm thankful because I'm able to say that I'm still got a little bit of my brain left, and I'm able to still get around pretty good for my age. I'm up in my 70s, and I still get in the gym, still work out, and still do my thing. But anyway, I said I'd write it. I'd tell my friends that say that. I said I'd write a book about being knocked out, tell them what it's like to be unconscious and then wake up over and over and over and over from different circumstances. So anyway.
No, that's interesting. I'd buy that book, no questions asked.
That would be a good one. It would be a good one because I have some great stories.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I'm glad I get to pick your brain here and learn from some of your experiences, the stuff that you lived through. Would you believe that, despite the fact that I'm about half your age, I think I'm legitimately half your age, I actually did see you live once in my lifetime.
Really? Where was that?
It was in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, our nation's capital. When you were as Tennessee Lee, exactly, with Jeff Jarrett.
You know what? That was a wonderful experience for me. That I had worked for Vince and those guys up there, and that we did 13 days, starting off in Halifax and Moncton, and all the way over to Vancouver, and it was in the summertime, and I got to see the whole country of Canada from coast to coast, and it was a great time in my life that I'll never forget it as long as I live. I thank Jeff for it every time I talk to him about it. That it's all right to travels in the United States. I'm like Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, the small towns and big ones all over this country. But to have an opportunity to go up to Canada and go all the way across the country, and to see all of the sights and all of as you can do from working for Vince, and getting the chance to just be in every major city all the way across there. It was wonderful, and the guys that we worked with and the crew were so good, and it was such a pleasure to work with them. That I'm married to a Canadian girl.
Oh.
I'm unlucky in marriage. I've had 4 marriages, and finally I got me a Canadian girl, and now I'm a very happy man. I've been married longer to her than I was all the other three wives put together.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
so life is going pretty good for me, man. So I'm saying,
Yeah.
okay, I got no hard feelings with Canada. I got one of my best friends in the world living up there in Jacques, and then I got my wife and her family all from New Brunswick, and I just
Oh,
say, you know
wonderful.
what, doggone it, it was some great times in Canada. And I want to say I don't want it to get away without saying that I had made an interview for Jacques, um, talking about his school and what he's doing with his school, his academy, and that I'm very proud of him in doing this. I'm tell you what, I'm looking here, I'm sitting looking at your arms there on the interview, and it looked like you hit a few days in the gym, man. And I'm sorry that I hadn't gotten a chance to see you in action doing your thing in the ring, but I'm sure if Jock trained you and that that it would be a darn good match to watch. And
Oh, well,
it
that,
sure is a pleasure to sit down here and talk with you and to knock on Canada's door again. That's a nice thing.
hmm And I mean, you're always welcome here in Canada. I'm sure Jacques would love to catch up with you. And just between you and I know that Jacques is looking for some judges for the Wrestling Academy. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you might end up being one of them. And I'm actually entered in the competition as well. I'm taking it very seriously, and I think that I'm going to do pretty darn good in there, and I think I'm going to win it. So if that does happen,
Well, goodness, man, I want to wish you the very best of luck. And you know what? Yeah. Now see if Jock had me up to be judging, then look out. You'd already have an advantage, wouldn't you?
well, like I said to Jacques, I'm just looking to have the same level playing field as everyone else, because that's all I need. The rest, I put in the work. I firmly believe that you put in the work and then everything else will fall into place. So I train for the job I want, not the job I have, but the job I want. I'm like a professional already. I don't need the $1 million contract. I'm living that lifestyle, eating right, training every day, doing all the right things, and the rest I do believe will fall into place. So,
You know what? That's all you can do. And you in this business, it's one thing. You be a little cocky. You got to have a lot of belief in yourself. Uh, I don't call it selfish. It's not like that, but it is believing that you got it, and that you can't wait to get to the show to prove it. And that's a way I always was when I was a young guy getting started out in the business. I didn't care if the dadgum trip. The guys would go, "Oh, the dadgum trip is 300 miles." I said, I don't care about that. What I care about is what I'm gonna do when I get there. I'm gonna
yeah,
steal the dadgum show. And I don't care if I'm on the first match or the third match or the main event. That I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna steal that damn show. And so, you got to kind of have that. You got to kind of have it and trust in yourself and work hard and put everything in it that it takes to make everything you want in your life happen in the ring. And then you go in there and make it happen.
yeah.
Heck, it just whether you're a heel, baby face, whatever your spot is, you dadgum play it to the hilt the best it can be done. So heck, that's so if I get a chance to judge something up there for Jock, then that's what I would be looking for. I would be looking for this guy that has really prepared for this, and he, if he looks like he's got it, then let's find out when he works in the ring if he does, and
Mhm.
and I want him to show me that. Yeah.
Yep.
So there you
Well,
are, man.
I appreciate the words of encouragement. I appreciate all the wonderful knowledge that you've bestowed upon me. And yeah, I intend fully on giving it my all when the bright lights are on and it's time to compete. But it's a great opportunity for everyone in it. As being Canadian, we don't get the same kind of exposure, so we really have to make the most of this. And I don't intend on letting this opportunity pass me by. So yeah, as we're winding down here, just wondering if there's anything else maybe you'd like to let our listeners know about. Anything. I'd love to just turn it over to you. If you've got any message for our fans, let's hear it.
Well, the only message that I have is that it's a wonderful thing in your country that you have something going on like this wrestling academy. That it's very exciting, and I just wish everybody all of my best that are involved in it. That I am 100% on board with whatever I could ever do for Jacques Rougeau. That I have all the respect in the world for him, and I love him, and I just know that this is going to turn out real well. That it's going to be a big thing there in Canada, and I'm pulling for you guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you for being a guest here. You know, it's a shame that I was, I guess, born in the generation I was, because I would have loved to work for you and your family in your territory back in the day. Would have been an absolute honor.
Yeah, well, I doggone. I miss that I'm getting too old and that I don't get that opportunity. But doggone it, I'll tell you what, I wish you all the best, my man.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you coming on this show. And if ever you want to do it again, our door is always open. With that said,
appreciate it.
Yeah. With that said, I thank you all for joining us.
Fun.
And look forward to our next episode. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube page. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Prophet. Follow me on Instagram at The Real Jeremy Prophet. And thank you once again for joining us. We'll be here next week. And remember that wrestling is life.
So, Joe Fo, I'm going to gargle a shot for Kurt Hennig and everybody before we go.
Oh, no.
Joe Fo, thank you guys.